G'day, how you going? I'm Dane Simpson, a proud Gamilaroi man. I live here in Wiradjuri Nation in Wagga Wagga. I come from a long line of entertainers, or storytellers, yarn spinners. Some may even argue that I come from the oldest storytelling on the planet. The Aboriginal people have such a rich history with storytelling, and we've been doing it for over 60,000 years. We didn't have a written language traditionally, Aboriginal people. We didn't have an alphabet, we didn't have like the hieroglyphics. And a lot of our history or a whole of our storytelling is passed through teachings and messages and through morals. My family come from a small country town called Walgett in outback New South Wales. It's on the surface, it looks like that there's not much to do there, or it could be quite boring. But however, it's the people, it's the yarns, the stories that made me who I am today. One of my favourite stories, and I love this, about my nan, and this is years ago. My nan used to iron people's clothes for a living, and back then you would heat the iron up on a fire. And one day, a lady came with a big basket of clothes and paid my nan cash up front. And my nan was like ironing her clothes for her. Once she finished this massive pile, she noticed that a gush of wind came along and blew the money into a fire. And she didn't get upset. She didn't get angry. What she did, she had a bit of a laugh about it. And anybody that came along, she kept ironing clothes. Anybody that came with their clothes, she'd iron and she'd tell that story. She'd share a laugh with these people. And by the end of the day, she'd told the story so many times and had such a big laugh and a reaction. She just said, you know what, that money is worth the yarn. And I like to think that I take after my nan in that sort of aspect. Because fast forward decades, I became a stand-up comedian. And I've done some of the most incredible events in this country and beyond. I also went internationally and did some gigs in India and in the UK. So it's just, and growing up in Wagga Wagga, I never ever thought that I could be a stand-up comedian. There was no sort of path, you know, and today I'm living proof that you can be. You can do whatever you want to be in these regional areas. I firmly believe that everyone has the skills to become a comedian. Because there's a funny story in everyone. You tell it at the pub, or maybe at dinner, or maybe at Christmas, when at a gathering. It's just something silly. It's about a friend or a family member, something that they've done, and the story grows every time you tell it. When you've got a new audience, you might add a little bit more detail. That you exaggerate aspects of it. It sharpens, it shapes as you tell it every single time. And the more you tell it, the funnier the story gets. Because as we know, the saying is, don't let the truth get in the way of a good yarn. My wife and I actually, we put this into practice in our hometown, in Wagga Wagga. We created a comedy club. We started the club from scratch, from absolute nothing. There was no comedy, there was no comedians in Wagga Wagga at the time. And what we did is we gathered just regular people from around the region, and we spoke to them about just the basics of telling a good yarn, of telling these silly stories. Everyone had a really cool story to tell. It just needed maybe the right language. It might needed some good timing or a tweak, just to bring the events out, to give it that little bit more funny. That was 8 years ago, and today we have an absolute thriving comedy club with incredible local performers, and we're really proud of them. Whether you're an aspiring comedian, or whether you just want your yarn to just pop at the next work function, or whatever it is, I've got 4 ideas that could help you with your stories, right? First, it's not a rule, it's sort of like, it's just a little bit of advice. Yep, the first advice would be engaging. Yep, so the yarn needs to be unusual. Yeah, it can't just be the same old, because that would be a boring story. It needs to be something different, needs to have happened. It creates engagement from the audience, and people want to know, how does this scenario resolve? So, example, like if I said that me and my dad, we went to Melbourne and we went to a cafe and we bought some coffee and then we walked away and we drank our coffee. It's not engaging. There's no thing that happened, right? But if I told you my dad's never bought coffee from a cafe in Melbourne before, it starts to build intrigue, right? That's you're interested in how's this going to play out. A side note, the barista in Melbourne was trying to help my dad, and he said, "Would you like me to talk to you about the coffee bean?" And my dad had no idea what that meant, and he just went, I don't care where the coffee's been." The second piece of advice is word economy. You need to get to the point as soon as you possibly can. The shortest distance between the setup and the punchline. The audience doesn't need to know details about when or where if it's irrelevant to the punchline. I'd like to think of it as like a roller coaster. So the more you're traveling up, the more the payoff needs to be. The third piece of advice is make it theatrical. You know, like stand-up comedy it's more theatrical than what people would believe. You're on a stage, by the way. You know, it's give the characters voices. Set the scene. Yeah, there's a guy in Walgett. He drinks at the pub, and just above the ATM, there's a big boar's head, like a big taxidermied boar head. It's huge, right? And the yarn is that he killed it by himself, which is crazy. And I think of this story every time I see him. I ask him, "How did you kill that boar by yourself?" And every time he's got a different yarn as to how he done it. My favorite, and it's actually the most recent, is I asked him, "How did you kill this massive boar that would easily be 2 tons? How did you kill that by yourself?" And he just pointed at it. He's like, "Oh, which one? That one?" As if there's multiple, right? He's like, "That one. I remember that night. I had a gut full of OP rum, and I caught that boar at the side of my eye, and he charged at me. I burped on it. He died then and there." And the fourth piece of advice for storytelling, and this is the most important, I think, is give the gift of laughs. Yeah, don't take away from someone else to make someone else laugh. I firmly believe in this. You only have this true moment to bring joy to someone. So why would we waste it on bringing someone else down? Yeah, you need to bring someone. You don't need to bring someone else down for you guys to have a good time. You can create a moment of silliness and fun, and you can have a laugh through that. It's more pure. I have a mate of mine, and this sort of relates to it. He says that drinking beers is just borrowing happiness from tomorrow. And he's right. You do feel a little bit extra happy today, but it's at tomorrow's hangover expense. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed the TED Talk. And as my nan said, I hope the money is worth the yarn.